Welcome to Off-Site, an ongoing video series that explores temporary exhibitions at the Fred Jones Jr. Museum of Art at the University of Oklahoma. My name is Mark White, and I will be your host for this particular video series on our fall 2016 exhibition, Picturing Indian Territory, 1819 to 1907. The exhibition offers a survey of the visual culture that helped to define the Indian and Oklahoma territories for 19th century audiences. Over the course of this series, we will speak with key individuals and visit sites significant to the rich histories of the territories and explore how those histories helped to define the state of Oklahoma. In the next two episodes, we will examine the early expeditions that initiated contact with the tribes in Indian Territory, creating cultural and geographic records in the early 1830s. Additionally, we will examine the effect of the American military presence prompted by tribal and political conflicts throughout the 19th century. Southwestern Oklahoma is home to both the Wichita Mountains and Fort Sill, both of which figure prominently in the history of the Indian and Oklahoma territories. Today, we visit Fort Sill in Lawton, Oklahoma. The Wichita Mountains are among the oldest in the world at over 500 million years. Historically, the range provided a home for both the Comanche and the Wichita, for whom the mountains are named. The mountains also provided a backdrop for the first meeting between those tribes and the American military. The first Dragoon expedition under Colonel Henry Dodge visited the range in 1834 to establish formal relations with the Comanches and Wichita. Artist George Catlin, who made a career painting Native American culture, recorded the details of those encounters in works like Comanche Warriors with White Flag Receive Dragoons, where he depicts a Comanche delegation meeting the front line of the expedition. The Dragoons expressed amazement at the feats of horsemanship by the Comanche, and Catlin was particularly impressed by Little Spaniard, a young warrior of Mexican and Comanche descent, also known as Jesus Sanchez. Here, Catlin depicts Little Spaniard rearing on his horse while displaying a white buffalo skin, a sign of peace. The distribution of Catlin's work as chromolithographs, or colored prints, helped shape how American audiences saw Plains tribes and the West. In 1852, Captains Randolph Barnes Marcy and George B. McClellan undertook an expedition to locate the mouth of the Red River and visited the Wichita, creating in the process the first record of the Wichita language for the American public. They were also impressed by the thatched grass houses of the Wichita, bearing a structure similar to beehives, and the sophistication of their agriculture. During their expedition, Marcy and McClellan ascended the tallest peak in the range, which they named for General Winfield Scott. Following the Civil War, Major General Philip H. Sheridan and the American military established Fort Sill in 1869 near the Wichita Mountains to police southern plains tribes such as the Kiowa and the Comanche that had recently been placed on nearby reservations. The fort was directly involved in the Red River War, in which the Army, under General Sheridan, attempted to confine the Comanche, Kiowa, Southern Cheyenne, and Arapaho to reservations in Indian Territory. Numerous skirmishes erupted along the border with Texas in 1874 and lasted until June 1875. When Quanah Parker and his Quahati band of Comanches surrendered at Fort Sill. Parker would live near the fort for the remainder of his life. In 1890, artist Julian Scott visited Fort Sill and painted this portrait of the famed Comanche chief. The fort also became a home, albeit reluctantly, to Geronimo and nearly 350 Chiricahua Apache prisoners in 1894. Geronimo would spend the rest of his life at the fort, where he became an international celebrity and the subject of numerous portraits by artists such as Henry Farney and Elbridge Eyre Burbank. Like Catlin, Burbank sought out leaders among the tribes he painted and created portraits of native sitters as a form of preservation under the assumption that their traditional culture would eventually disappear. Numerous Native American leaders such as Geronimo, Quanah Parker, and the Kiowa chiefs Satank, Satanta, and Kickingbird are buried alongside members of the American military in the Fort Cemetery, including the African American regiments popularly known as the Buffalo Soldiers. The Wichita Mountains are still home to Fort Sill, as well as the Wichita Wildlife Refuge, established in 1901 by President William McKinley. A small herd of American bison from the New York Zoological Park were transferred to the refuge in 1907, with a ceremony that included Comanche leader Quanah Parker. This refuge is largely credited with rescuing the bison from extinction, and the descendants of that herd now live alongside longhorn cattle and other wildlife residents of the refuge.